Hello and welcome to Campfire Conversations, stories from the center of the universe, where we bring the stories from our campfire to your ears, wherever you are in the world. Here we chat to friends over a favorite drink, enjoy the crackle of the fire, and let the real stories of life in the bush be told. Let's get talking to some bushveld legends and hear about their finest hours, the moments that made them question it all, and what keeps them coming back for more.
Yeah, they knock a glass over, they dance it out, it's awesome.
Welcome back to another season of Campfire Conversations. Coming to you live from the fire pit. Episode 2, here we are in the night. Can you hear the crickets and a Scops owl? Tulela is a luxury exclusive use camp in the magnificent Klaserie Private Nature Reserve. You can find out more about what we are up to here at Tulela by signing up for our newsletter on tulela.co.za or following us on Instagram, tulela_ZA. My guests tonight are two very good friends of mine. We've had to force them to be here. The anxiety is palpable. Very modest, very humble, both of you guys. And like now I'm talking from my heart, not from a script. I'm privileged to have you both here. I love both of you guys. We have spent a lot of nights around a fire in the bush, on foot, filming, having a good time. And it means a lot to me that we forced you to be here. I know you don't want to, but I look forward to having a conversation around the fire with you guys.
Happy to be here. Thanks, Brett.
I mean that from my heart, hey. I really do.
Nice to be here.
Both very familiar with the bush and especially the Klaserie. And although sitting around a campfire is probably where they are most at home, they are both very relieved we are not rolling a camera tonight. We've told stories and talked about our shared experiences as guides many times, and most of those conversations probably took place in a setting just like this. They did. You'll recognize Luan Oosthuizen as the character from M. Gatlin's famous engagement story. And you'll know Kevin as the cameraman for the podcast, the White Lion Man. It's only taken 8 or 9 episodes to convince him to sit around the fire with me. Here we are. Kevin and Luan were both born wearing khaki and have spent most of their lives in the actual low-felt bush. They both have stories about guiding guests that are probably not appropriate to tell, but we're going to give it a bash. It's my pleasure to be in their company tonight. So here we go. We're going to introduce Kevin. At Kevin Maclaughlin, videographer extraordinaire, living the life that people dream of, literally. I think even we want to be guides, but all of us actually wanted to be wildlife documentary makers. We grew up, dreaming David Attenborough, John Varty, and Kevin is basically doing that. Born and raised in Limpopo mud before he went to Cape Town and Pretoria for schooling. He grew up on a farm and has an innate love for nature, plants, animals, and geology. His parents were almost always fostering or rehabilitating injured animals, from caracals to owls and even a pangolin. Let's get started. Kevin, what happened to your guinea pigs?
Jeez. That's the worst way to start. So, yeah, when we were kids, we had all sorts of weird animals as pets, and my one brother, Murray, and we fell in love with these 2 guinea pigs that our parents gave us, and it also just happened, we happened to have these guinea pigs around the same time that my dad recently had to remove a big python from like in Zanine area within the town, and it was quite a big python. And yeah, we got home from school the one day and the python was hungry, so
No.
yeah, our pets were no more.
You are kidding. What do you mean remove the python?
So yeah, my dad, he's often part of sort of like an emergency call list in Zanine. If you need a snake removed or whatever, he'll come through and capture it, and then what he does is he'll wait when later on down the line, when he goes into a reserve or something, he releases the snakes.
So this one was just homing itself in your home for a short...
Yeah, but every time we would have these snakes, we would keep them for 2 weeks or 3 weeks,
awesome.
or it all depends on how long it takes him to get back out into the bush. But yeah, we had pythons. I mean, the one python used to live in our spare bedroom. It ended up being there for 2 months, but that's the
Wow.
one that we fed our guinea pigs to.
Okay, I love it.
Yeah, but shit, that stuff happens.
Okay, so it just went into the circle of life.
Yeah.
So, favorite snake?
Favorite snake. Um, it's tough to say. Hey, Africa is, it's got a lot of crazy, insane snakes. I mean, I think the one I'm most fearful of, the black mamba, is probably also my most favorite, just
Really?
because of how hardcore that snake is. I
Yeah.
mean, it looks at you and you can feel it. Like
Yeah,
it's,
straight. I've
it's
felt
weird,
that.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a very, very crazy snake. So, like, I have so much respect for it, but yeah, probably that's probably what makes it the favorite.
Yeah. I mean, I find them more scary than any of the other
no,
creatures out here.
For sure.
Lion, elephant.
I won't go near that snake. It's like, no,
But
no.
you do have snakes in your house. I know that.
Not anymore.
No, but Kevin lives with snakes. Okay, my favorite thing, I've talked about it many times before on the podcasts,
Yeah.
white lions. Again, going back, middle of lockdown, locked in my house,
Yeah.
55 days, no alcohol, no
Yeah.
tobacco, not a lot of God in my garden, and Kevin's driving around the Kruger Park looking for lions.
So, yeah, basically, do you want to know how that happened?
Yeah, tell us everything, man.
Cool.
And about the white lions.
Yeah, so we've been working on a documentary for around 2 years now on the white lions. I'm not sure how much I can actually chat about it.
Yeah.
I don't really know how they're putting it all together and all of
Yeah.
that, but yeah, during lockdown we were lucky enough to actually get permits to travel within during those very hectic stages,
Yeah.
and we got permits to get out to Singida, and we could base ourselves there for a solid month.
Yeah.
Singida Labombe, this is in Kruger National Park, so it's a beautiful, pristine concession there.
Yeah. It's
Um,
magnificent.
Yeah, and a very good friend of mine, Dave, he works with us on a lot of the shoots. American
Been on a
Dave,
podcast.
Yeah.
Dave Mack, we love you, man. Big up to Texas.
Yeah, we were lucky enough to go out there for a solid month. We obviously had to sort of isolate ourselves from the rest of the group at Singida for the first week. But once that was done, we could sort of carry on mingling with everyone there, and it was really cool because I suppose it was cool for us, not for Singida, because they obviously had no guests. It was obviously a very shit time.
Yeah.
But for us to be able to experience that concession with no one else around was unreal.
Absolutely.
And yeah, like filming wildlife, you need to make the most of every opportunity you can. So it's you out there at sunrise and then you get back at sunset. Yeah, we spent every day out there. Like, it's just you work on a routine. So if you don't find anything by lunchtime, you kind of set up lunch and kind of have a break, and then you carry on looking for, trying to find the lions. But luckily that place is just packed with lions. So
Yes.
there were a lot of times where you drive 5 minutes and it's like, oh, there's the lions, and
Wow.
you sit with them for the day. Yeah, we were lucky enough to have a sighting. I think it was one sighting we had of the white lion while we were there.
That's the male.
Yeah, the big.
And there's
big male
3
from-
white lions in the wild right now, to the best of my knowledge.
Yeah. So there's also been rumors of another white lion, but that is also like it's. Yeah, I'm not 100%
Yeah,
sure about
yeah.
all of that. But yeah, it's just the most amazing thing, being able to actually follow these lions and document them and pretty much live with them, like and see how they live out their lives out in the wild. Which
Yeah.
it's incredible there.
It is incredible.
Yeah.
It is. It really is, man. You've been fortunate also, obviously, to travel throughout Africa and all over the world, filming pumas hunting penguins in Patagonia, sitting in a hide in a penguin colony for a month, was not all glamour, they say. Bullfrogs, secretary birds, condors, giant bullfrogs fighting you were telling about last night.
Yeah.
Actually incredible.
Yeah.
Leopards living in lodges. Tell us about any of that.
Sure. Well, yeah, it's all goes with the job here. Like, no two shoots are the same. A lot of the stuff that you've mentioned, like I can't go in too much depth of it, because a lot of the stuff hasn't been released. But then, yeah, it's this sort of line of work. It takes you all over, and you get to see the most wildest places and craziest wildlife interactions, behaviors.
Yeah.
There was we did a shoot recently in the Drakensberg on vultures where
Yes.
so it was I've never done the Drakensberg really. Like, I haven't explored it or seen it that much. But myself and Joe Cooper, he was assisting on the shoot. He's been on the podcast as well.
Big up Joe Cooper. We love you, man.
And yeah, it was an incredible shoot, but we had to actually climb to the top of the Drakensberg to access this vulture colony. And so we stayed at, the lodge was Greenfire Drakensberg Lodge, and they've got the colony up there. And the first day we got there, we were like, okay, let's see what it's like. Let's try and get sort of to the half, or let's see how far we can get and see how long the hike takes. So we packed the gear to sort of test the weight, and it was very heavy. Like, us two carrying like full on CN20 plus red camera plus full on tripod plus all the batteries. And so we set out, we left the lodge and we set out, and we see the clouds building, and I was like, Joe, is this alright, eh? Like, these clouds look a bit hectic. And he's like, yeah, no, it's hundreds, bro.
That's Joe.
We carried on walking. We hiked about an hour, and we got to there's this cave place where there's these Bushman paintings and all of that. It's really, really stunning. But we literally started running to this cave, and there was lightning hitting all around us, and we literally got stranded in this like hole in the rock for about an hour until the storm blew over. And then we were like, all right, cool, we need to try and get back down.
Yeah.
And there was another storm building, like, coming on, and we're like, okay, here's our gap. And we went, and we literally went as fast as we could. In the last 100 meters, it started hailing. We started running with the equipment, and we dived into a horse stable. We were just like, oh my word. But yeah,
those are the glory days of filming.
But then
That's
luckily,
great.
yeah, the next few days it cleared up, and we had the most perfect weather. It was still it was a huge challenge just to get up to the top of the mountain. But then once you're up there, you're kind of looking down onto the colony, and they all just start soaring below and above and all around you, and then your backdrop is just like the most incredible views of the Drakensberg here. But it's moments like that where it just takes your breath away, and it makes it all worth it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, we wish you all the best with your filming, Kevin.
Cheers.
And Casper, the famous white lion. Go check him out on Instagram. Also at Kevin Maclaughlin. So Kevin guided Africa on foot in the Klaserie alongside Luan, and transitioned from guiding to photography and then into filming. Luan, I want to bring you in here, man. Literally grew up in the Klaserie Nature Reserve. Famous rugby player, made himself famous on the St. rugby fields back in the Easter festival. Number 8 from Ermelo. He was last seen running over all 20 of the St. team. The 15 men on the field and the reserves.
I think it was just you and Courtney watching the game.
No, there were 10,000 people. He, as I said, is a great man, a wonderful, wonderful guide. And I've actually been lucky to do some professional guiding with you, and that's been so fortunate for me as well. Only a few times, but the times that I've walked with you have been really cool. I want to talk about walking, and I want to talk about your story in the bush. And Klaserie, you grew up in Ermelo. You've been wearing vellies, veldskoen forever, and started driving the game view around Klaserie at about 8 years old. A real farm boy with the manners to match. He's the younger brother to sisters who are twins, which has made him tough. He's had to defend himself most of his life. There's a romantic story to his in Klaserie. He's a trails guide extraordinaire and running a walking safari operation in Maseke Game Reserve. Chloe talks about your grandfather built a house for your grandmother in the Klaserie and wrote a letter to say, "My little house stands. Does our love still stand?" I mean, talk to me about the Klaserie and your heritage, man.
Yeah, we've been very fortunate, I guess, with my grandfather having a love for the bushveld. Unfortunately, I never had the privilege to meet him. He died, he passed away just a couple of days after my birth.
Hectic.
But he bought the property in Klaserie in 1948. He was a farmer from the Highveld, and then usually after the harvest there would be a gap before the planting or the seeding season, and then they would all come up here and relax a bit and enjoy the bushveld for a while before it's back to the grinding stone.
Wow.
Yeah, and I guess back in those days you really had to prepare and plan a trip like that. It wasn't just hopping into your 4x4 and
Exactly.
driving
Cruising
down
on the
from
N4.
wherever to get here. It was there's no cooling, there was no electricity, sometimes not even roads or water.
Yeah.
So it was you really had to enjoy the area and the bush to go through all that effort to get down here for a holiday.
Yeah.
When you're basically working the holiday to get here. But yeah, I think that just...
And this was probably the early 60s.
Yeah, so late early 50s, I'd say. So he bought it in 1948. So that must have been the 50s and then 60s. He passed away in 1988. But I think that's where it all started. I think him coming up here and also bringing a lot of families from the Highveld, friends, family, to also experience the bush with them. Also planted the seed of, just sharing it as well. It's a special place where you can break away and actually relax and just enjoy nature and not think about a whole lot. Just, enjoy the atmosphere.
100%.
And I think that's just been passed on from generation to generation to where we are now, still trying to get people in, just showing them the bush, taking them out, having a good time.
Yeah, exactly.
So, that's what it's all about.
That's amazing, man. That's a really, really cool story. So here you are, and I mean, tell us, when you say where we are now, tell us where you are now and your family and your farm and your operation.
So the lodge or the farm went commercial in 2006, Africa on Foot. It's specialized in walking. For the last, say, about decade, it's been picking up slowly. But awesome business and a concept of getting out in the bush on foot.
Yeah, authentic experiences.
Yeah, and still the original buildings, that my granddad put up in, the late or mid 60s. I mean, the camp still run on a donkey boiler. The rooms are pretty much still exactly the same.
There's your third beer. We're now triple parking.
Yeah.
Thank you, Guy. My man.
Yeah, so we had to make it a little bit more comfortable for international guests, as you can imagine. In the old days, there was one shower in the middle of the camp and this stairway leading down. And basically in the mornings when you got up, you had to put your toiletries on the step.
Yeah.
And then if that step was taken, you would put your toiletries on the next step. And you would kind of just time yourself and see when is your turn to shower. Unfortunately, you can't do that with international guests, so we had to put the en-suites on the old rondavels. But I think we're all happy about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's come a long way.
It has. I mean, I've seen photos there at Africa on Foot of, the wagons, like literally, it always blows my mind.
Yeah.
Literally, they're coming on wooden wagons,
That was the
donkeys.
game drive vehicle, 2 donkeys and a trailer.
So through the Klaserie.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to comprehend that.
And
Yes.
and no roads when you think about it. Like we grade our roads often now, and we cut them open on a
Yes.
monthly
Tractors.
or so often. That's the one thing I always think of is putting yourself in those people's shoes that were there
Yeah.
in the beginning days, and imagine
Crazy,
just exploring the bush like that.
No, exactly. Here we are, swimming pool, Tulela, aircon.
In luxury, yeah.
Yeah. The wine's cold, we've got
Proper
ice.
And nothing wrong with that as well.
No, exactly. Okay, that's amazing, man.
Yes, it's
Really amazing. I have affinity for Africa on Foot. I really do. And it's actually crazy because, as you say, all we want to do here now is just relax in nature, in the quiet, away from maybe some unnecessary stresses. And that's what, your grandfather also was like 60 years ago. Nothing's changed actually inside. Tell me, let's talk about walking, man. I actually said also in the last couple of days, you've been walking more than most human beings on foot in the Greater Kruger Park in the last few years. Like really, and I know that for a fact, eh? I mean, you're doing back-to-back walking trails. Tell us about walking trails, and then, I mean, the obvious questions that I want to ask that you get asked all the time. Scary, closest.
Yeah, no, it's quite lucky because it is what I enjoy doing. So I'm lucky to be in that position, and
it's what you're good at, man.
yeah, I mean, no 2 trails are the same, and no group of guests are the same. So that's the interesting thing. You're always meeting these, people from around the world, and they all bring their own, characters and interesting backgrounds and stories to the mix. And yeah, it's such a nice reserve. Learning Klaserie was amazing, and moving to a new reserve is also, it's new challenges. There wasn't a lot of roads, and just exploring the whole reserve, and it's got a very rich history with the mining and and also the same thing. You just put yourself again in those miners' foot.
Yeah.
That time period where
People that were working there back in those days.
yeah, and then it's just amazing sharing it with other people, and we've had some interesting.
You got some
sightings.
hilarious guest stories, man. I know you do. Some people say a lot of them about bowel movements, but I know you have some good guest stories.
I don't know why I always get the bowel movements, but
But
seems,
every bowel movement story I've heard has come from you,
yeah, I don't know
And
what
there's
it
been
is,
a lot,
but
eh?
yeah, one I can share with you guys. I don't
Yes.
think
Don't need to mention names. Eh?
no, luckily I don't think the guest is going to be tuning in.
Okay, perfect
podcast.
podcast.
Yes, there's
Gee,
a couple, but she's like
There's
the
a lot,
mid-range
right?
ones.
There's
No, it's just
plenty.
it was
We've got all night.
a European guest that we took out on a walk, and he looked at me pretty. You could see there was something wasn't right. There was a little bit of sweat on the forehead, and high-pitched voice, and I knew it was that time. And I said, sure. Pointed him into a direction, and there must have been lost in translation, and he thought the spot where we all were standing was the spot.
Oh, yeah, sick.
Or he was in a serious rush, but yeah, he just dropped it, and we all started running.
You're kidding me.
In the middle of a walk, eh?
Yeah, right in single file.
That's awesome.
So at least he took the pre-walk briefing
Exactly.
very
Stay
literally.
in single file.
Yeah, he wasn't going to break the single file. But
Oh, my
the
word.
weirdest thing about that story is the next day it happened again.
Yo, no, man.
So after we all
Same guest
ran
or-
off, same guest,
No.
What?
X marks the spot. He just went there and there. And I mean, the rest of the group and myself, we couldn't understand it. So by the third day, we knew when he had that look on his face, we just started running. And we just pointed him to a direction. But yeah, I don't know why I have that luck with those situations, but it's happened more often than I would like to remember. It's quite hard to forget as well.
Yes, exactly. Okay, that's
But
awesome,
yeah,
man.
that was probably one of the scariest sightings.
Oh, man. Okay, that's fantastic. What else comes to mind, man? Memorable moments.
Sure.
Good or bad?
There's a lot. I mean, when you start thinking about it, I mean, something happens and you think, wow, I'm never gonna forget this, or you know.
Yeah.
And then when you get asked it, a lot of times it's a couple that pop up but when you really think about it, there's been a lot. But like the most recent one, we were on the Olifants, and it was basically the first time it's happened to me, where the Olifants was coming down after all the rain, so there was a lot of noise on the river.
Yeah.
And we had a good breeze blowing, and we were actually just on our way back to the tents, and we crossed some fresh leopard tracks, and we could see it was very fresh because of all the wind. It was almost that wind that you don't really want to walk too close to the river, so we stuck to the roads just because of all the the hippo and buffalo activity that we've had in the area. And then probably about 20-30 meters after showing the guests the leopard tracks, we found the leopard up in a tree.
No way.
But it was very close, probably 25-30 meters from us, but it was fast asleep. And everything was just perfect, the noise of the river and the wind direction. So they had no idea that we were there, and we were just watching this leopard having a sleep on foot. And I mean, we had enough time for guests to take decent pictures. There was nothing we could really hide behind or anything. We were just in the open, but it's just moments like that.
Hectic.
I mean, a lot of times you head out on a game view and all you're hoping for is a sighting like that.
Yeah,
and then,
exactly.
I mean, after
You don't see leopard on foot often, man.
a couple of years, finally finding one, not knowing you're there.
Wow.
And actually, facing you, so you can actually see the face and everything, and it's out in the open. Sightings like that you remember.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's awesome. That's very cool. We're almost going to walk tomorrow, buddy. Kevin and Luan, I've got a question for both of you. I don't know who wants to go first. Oh, the one was, well, I just wanted to say to Kevin, you're a dick for not reporting the golden pipit in time when you saw it in Kruger. It's from the whole twitching community.
Is it? My bad.
The other thing I love about you is your passion for ancient artifacts. And even this morning, I picked up this thing, and I love what you know about stones, man. That's so crazy. We found a cutting tool.
Yeah, skinning tool.
Skinning tool.
Yeah.
It was so cool.
That's sort of come from like growing up with my dad. He's been interested in that, and whenever he takes us out into the bush, from a very young age, he used to find these things and pieces of pottery and Stone Age tools, and he would always explain to us why it is this and why it is that, and that's always sparked the interest. And like this area, this Lowfart, like if you walk around, you can walk 10 minutes that way and you'll probably pick up a handful of tools, pottery. It's littered with history, which it's incredible. And at Africa on Foot, I found a soapstone bowl, which is probably, the whole bowl would have been about a foot, but it's this beautiful carving straight out of soapstone in a beautiful bowl. Like,
wow,
one of the most incredible things that you realize that
how did it get
people
there?
used to live in this place, like,
Exactly.
with these animals, and side by side with them, and I mean, credit to those oaks. I mean, it must have been pretty tough.
It's very cool. It really is.
Yeah, it's a
very
wild
cool.
place. It's very crazy.
It is. Let's. I'm going to open questions to the floor. So I'm going to give you guys. We have an audience. Some of them are quiet. Some of them are not. You guys are going to ask a question in 50 seconds. I'm going to ask a question to both of you. Whoever wants to go first can go first. I'd like a story about each other.
About like each other as in us together.
Yeah. Kevin, a story about Luan. Luan, a story about Kevin.
So I've got a good
Whoever
one.
goes first has more.
I've got a good one about Kevin the first time he got malaria.
Okay, this is great.
Malaria.
Yes. Tell us the story.
When we were camping at Buffeldam.
Oh, jeez. I forgot about this story.
Me and a couple of mates, most of them from the Highveld, and myself and Kevin and a couple of the guides. We were off over, December time, and we left them there and we shot up to the camp to get some supplies and came back. We were camping out at Africa on Foot, and as we got back, we immediately smelt the tambuti on the fire. So,
just for the record, I wasn't there at this stage.
Okay.
I only came later once all the meat was fried, and everyone said it was delicious.
So we smelt that there was some tambuti going.
Wow.
Obviously, the guys that made the fire didn't pick up on the scent, and we cooked our last bit of meat. And as we got back and the meat was all cooked, we said, well, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to eat this because it's been right on the tambuti, and you don't want to take chances. And then we
It's
left
poisonous wood to cook meat on.
Yeah, exactly. So we left it, and then just after that, Kevin arrived, and he didn't realize what had just happened. So he was coming to pick up his car or something. So Kevin helped himself to
It was ravenous.
It was a rough day. Like all your friends were there, so.
Might have had a hangover.
It was a bit hectic.
Might have been working all day. Might have been hot.
This whole thing of meat. I was like, yo, that looks amazing.
Yeah, so Kevin helped himself to a bit of meat.
No ways.
And then the next day, I think you were man down for.
Yes, I was sweating.
Really? Really?
No,
it made you sick, man.
I thought I had malaria. Like, it was, high fever, sweating.
But nobody noticed Kevin eating the meat, so it's not like we tricked him. It wasn't like sabotage.
Yeah, I got you.
Maybe a little bit.
And your stomach? I mean, not to be funny.
No, like, off.
Yeah.
Like, disgusting.
Yeah.
And so,
No ways,
I wouldn't
man.
recommend it,
No, I mean, I've heard stories about tambuti. We always tell people it's poisonous to cook meat.
I
I actually don't know the story.
Yeah.
This is great.
No, I have heard people that have been a lot worse off than what I was.
No, there's some people have died.
Yeah, I was more just sick for a few days and then with fever and upset stomach and all of that, and
I think also the amount of tambuti that was on the fire was maybe just enough to get you sick, but not enough to to go,
Okay, that's great. Tonight Kevin got malaria. Okay, you want to say anything about Luanki?
Yeah. There's a cool story that him and I. Pretty much all our stories stem from nights out. Funny enough.
Funny that.
But
nights out in the Klaserie.
Well, this we didn't even go out. We were having a braai, I think, at Courtney's place, and everyone was around. I can't remember who everyone was, but there were a lot of people around, and everyone was getting a bit festive. And Luan and I, we were. Sure, him and I went on another level, and when you get a little bit drunk for dreet, and so we went.
Brandy's kicking in. Boys are young, no responsibilities.
Luan and I decided this is a good time to go to the swimming pool, have a few more drinks, just because
we can.
Yeah, and it was a beautiful night. It was full moon. It was pretty romantic, actually. But the next minute, wild dogs ran through the camp, and we were like, "What the hell just happened?" And we heard them killing something. We were like, "Okay," and we started walking over, and through just moonlight, we watched a whole pack of wild dogs killing an impala, like just
No
off the edge of camp, and we're like, oh well, that's a good way to end the night.
Yes.
Yeah.
No ways,
Yeah.
man. Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was
Good
insane.
times.
That's really cool. Yeah.
There was a couple of wild
That's
dog
the best of times.
sightings. I mean, the one I'll never forget.
Yeah.
That was with we had the den at close to Africa on foot, and
Yes.
we were
I remember.
filming, or Kevin was filming
Oh,
the whole
yes.
afternoon, and then we went, left it at like around
Yeah.
drinks time, and then as we left, we saw this martial eagle coming over us, and we were like, that thing is heading straight towards the den. So we turned around and rushed back to the den site, and as we got there, the martial eagle had just smashed one of the wild dog pups.
Yeah.
And we were like, yes,
That was crazy.
No,
Martial
this is
eagle.
crazy, guys.
We've got photos of it with the martial eagle on the pup. It's crazy.
Wow.
Really, really crazy. Yeah. But that section of Klaserie is brilliant with wild dog. I don't know what it is about that part of Klaserie, but the game it's just crazy.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah. It's
Sure.
awesome. And we all love wild dogs. That's why I've got
Yeah.
my wild dog as the logo, man.
Yeah.
And
no,
the
for
Klaserie is
sure.
pumping with dogs.
Yes,
it
yeah.
really is.
Yeah.
But that's absolutely incredible.
Mm.
And I remember hearing that story. So
Yeah.
you left, and this marshal guy, did you say like it had been watching them for a while? Was it Jason?
I remember.
Like,
So that pack of dogs moved recently. They moved their den sites recently,
yes,
and
I remember the den.
I remember seeing that martial eagle at the previous den site, and I didn't think anything of it. I thought, oh, there's a martial eagle. It's obviously just it's there. But then they moved. It wasn't too far. Like the den sites weren't too far from each other. The one was on Jason's side, and the other one was on Gomo's side.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But yeah, it was probably like a kilometer, like in a straight line. But then, yeah, the martial eagle was back, and as soon as we left, we saw him like sort of drop down into the canopy, and yeah.
It's insane. How old do you
Yeah.
think that dog was? It's like the
Tiny.
baby wild dog. Like,
Yeah, it was still black hair. Like,
Yeah. It was the first time they moved den sites.
yeah,
A couple of weeks old.
okay, these are good. These are
Mm.
great.
yeah. No, very crazy.
Yeah.
Also had a sighting. We at Africa on Foot. We just made the coffee in the morning, woke up all the guests, and this was when Mike Beard was around.
Mhm.
And
Magic.
So him and I went back to the Rangers room, and these guests ran to this Rangers room, and they're like, "Listen, there's an impala in the lodge," and we're like, "No, but yeah, the impala, like they'll move around and like they're there. It's
They're no
chill."
threat.
They're like, "No, it's inside the lodge," and we're like, "Okay, cool." So him and I, we head over there, and we want to just see what's happening. Next minute, we see this impala. It can't stand because it's slipping on the concrete, the polished floors and
Yes.
everything. And as I look on the other side, the one wild dog tries to step into the lodge where the guests are. And you know, African Foot, it's all open and stuff.
Yes.
But it sees all the people and then backs out. And this impala is still slipping on the floor. And myself and Mike were like, all right, let's try and help this impala. We grab the legs and we take it to the other side of the lodge to give it the benefit of the doubt. And the dogs were all packed on this side. And we released
What?
it, and it jumped up, and it ran right around into the back, and we were like, oh, easy.
You are kidding me.
But everyone was literally watching with a cup of coffee. This impala runs around into the pack of dogs, and we were like, ah, damn it.
We tried our best. No.
Yeah.
Okay. This is amazing. Do we have any questions from the outer circle? Any comments?
I want to know about the time you woke up on a stretcher in Ghana Reserve National Park with an elephant standing over you.
Sure.
Yes.
Because I know that was a part of your childhood with your dad.
Yeah.
And that is quite a scary
Yeah.
moment for a lot of people.
So Ghana Reserve is it's one of the most amazing places on this world, like on this planet.
National Park in Zimbabwe.
Yeah, and I've often gone with my dad, and we'll do camping trips. He's a fencing contractor, and he was working on the fence for the neighboring farm there, Malalangwe. And then whenever he would go up to work, I would join him, and he would do a few days work, and then we would do like 4 or 5 days camping in Ghana Reserve. And eventually it moved to a point where he was doing or building portions of Ghana Reserve's fence. So we pretty much got free access of the reserve, and he needed to do what he needed to do, and then obviously we could do what we wanted to do.
Yeah.
So like we could go fishing and have a good time and camp where we wanted, to get to certain parts of the fence and access those places. So really wild places, but yeah, it's for some reason I think that Zimbabwean cane in Zimbi, I think it's called that. Yes, it makes you do weird stuff. When you
Zimbabwean cane.
yeah,
Okay.
golden cane.
Any cane is hectic. Zimbabwean cane must be really.
Yeah, on the banks of the Rindi, when you have a little
Yes,
bit too many,
exactly.
you forget to put your tent, and I don't know if we forgot. We camped like that most of the time. You just put the stretcher out, which I didn't understand. But the one morning I woke up and my dad and I were sleeping on a stretcher next to the vehicle with no tent. I don't know why. But hence that's why we had to drink. Like, I found that's the only way I could fall asleep at night. Otherwise there's no sleeping. But yeah, I woke up the one morning and there was literally an elephant standing at the base of us.
Wow.
And feeding on one of the trees above, but like I woke up and turned and I was looking at its knees. It was like,
Hectic. Yes.
Dad, what do we do? And he's just like, just keep quiet. I was like, okay. And eventually it just moved away. I was like, holy shit.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's
Good
really
times,
cool.
good
Yeah,
times
the
with the
best
pops.
time. Yeah, and Ghana Reserve is an amazing place
Yeah.
actually. Huh?
No, it's incredible.
Yeah.
It really is.
Kevin, I believe he dug in the riverbed to get access water to give you. For
That
your
was a
hangover.
different time.
Oh, was that another time?
Yeah. That was when we were hungover and we drank all our fresh drinking water the night before. And I woke up, I think at 10 o'clock it was about 48 degrees. And
Yeah.
I woke up, I chundered and then I passed out under the vehicle. And because I realized we had no water, I didn't think there was anything else left in the world. So I was like, I'm done. And yeah, I don't know, I probably slept for an hour. My dad woke me up and he's like, do you want some water? And so he had gone to the Rindi River, but dug out of one of the sand beds and then got the filtered water and filled up all our water.
Wow.
Because we were a day's drive from any sort of water point where we could actually fill up from a proper tap or anything.
Yes.
But yeah, we've had many stories. In
No,
that
that's
park,
legit, man. It really is. I'm gonna fire away. Luan, tell us a joke or give us an animal sound. Your choice. Or tell us your
Yes,
engagement story. You have three
No.
options.
Jeez. Is that the only 3 options?
Yeah, those are the only 3. You just need to choose one.
Ish. Animal sound.
Yeah, but. And then Guy has to identify it. Go for it.
He hasn't been successful, eh?
No, last night he was not
So
successful.
let's give that a try.
Hmm.
Here we go. That was an
pretty
easy
good.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, your car around because I got so nervous there.
You have to nail that one.
Kev, dog. Yeah. There we go. What's it? That's it. Good dog. Game Ranger guy, little joke. You told us a joke earlier.
Something like, why does a fish eagle go to church?
To pray?
Yeah, because it's a bird of prey.
Thank
Redemption.
you, sir. Thank you, my buddy. I'm going to wrap up. I don't know if you have any more deep, meaningful moments or stories.
No more. I'm done.
It's been beautiful, huh?
No, shot. Thanks. It was
Yeah,
lekker.
thank you so
Yeah.
much, you guys.
Yeah.
Bet it actually wasn't
Really
that
awesome.
bad. But, yeah.
It wasn't that bad. Thank you for joining us. You can find today's guests online via their social media handles linked in this podcast description. Go ahead and give them a follow, share some love, and show some support for what they are doing. We welcome your questions and comments and encourage you to let us know what you're thinking. Who do you want to meet around our campfire, and what burning questions do you have for these bush legends? Find us on social media via the links in the description, and tune in to watch our podcast recordings from around the campfire on our YouTube playlist.
They knock a glass over, they dance it hard, it's awesome.